Yeah, well, I can't clearly and concisely tell you why it was a first down. I'll kind of run down the kind of the mechanics, what happened on the field. I'd like you to talk about, since you were a referee, when I'm done, I'd like you to talk about measurements and what the referee's looking for. Because I know, and you see the still frame, whenever there's a close measurement, you see the pictures on social media everywhere. So look, Tampa is trying to run out the clock. They're up. Atlanta's out of timeouts. Leonard Fournette, third down, runs to the line to gain. The line to gain was the 9-yard line, the Falcons' 9-yard line. Initially, it looked short. On the replays, it looked short. Ball spotted, stretched the chains, ruled the first down, goes to replay. These are, look, I will say, these are tough plays to review because the angles are very, very important, and you're going to need a look down the line or as close to down the line as possible. To me, though, even without the great shot down the line, it was clear that the ball did not make the 9-yard line. He's going to extend his right arm. At that point, he wasn't even down yet. If you want to give him progress at that point, okay. But even then, the ball did not make the 9. At best, it was maybe the 10 and whatever you want to call it, the 9 and a quarter yard line. They're tough to overturn, but I really felt that there was enough evidence to say that the ball did not make the 9-yard line and that it should have been overturned. But again, they're tough plays, and by just percentages, the lowest percentage of replays typically that get overturned are those line to gain reviews.
Yeah, you're right. And of course, the uproar is the fact that when you look at when the rod was placed down on the ground, it looks like the ball was short. And we deal with this not often, but I certainly have, and you did too, where there's a still frame shot that shows, or some shot that shows that the ball's not touching the rod, and yet it's ruled the first down. But you made reference to it. You can see that that shot that was shown, that angle was not right down the line. It was in front of, it was actually in front of the rod looking in. And you know, you just have to look at the referee. And if you look at Brad Rogers, he's standing right over it, looking directly down on it. So he's got by far the best look. So, you know, although some people might call it an optical illusion, whatever might be, look at where Brad, you'll see his legs there. He's looking right down at it. So I saw it before one time with Walt Coleman, and everybody went crazy. So it's never quite the best look, and you just can't definitively say, quite frankly, whether it is or it isn't in relationship to the rod. And I would say this, people in San Francisco on my show today were talking about why not lasers if you had a laser. I don't buy the laser notion. I'm not going to buy the laser notion. Yeah, you may see the forward-most point of the ball, but how are you going to get it into precise relation to the knee being down or whatever body part? So that to me, unless you want to put chips in elbows and forearms and knees and butts, then there's no way that a laser is going to work. So I'm for Gene Steratore. Stick the damn card down there. I used to do it when I was a referee, when it was so close you couldn't tell. You carried a card specifically for that. And why that got, you know, banished to me is actually insane. It's as accurate as anything. But, you know, to me, this is just one of those plays that you look at, it looks strange because of the angle of the shot.
Now, Mike, when you carried a card, what card did you carry? Was it like your Discover card, your library? Well, you don't have a library card. Was it like this card you get at Subway where you punch it 5 times and you get a free sub? What card did you carry when you were a referee? It
was actually my Costco card, but wait, I don't even think Costco was around yet, you know. But it was actually that card, you know, they carry around cards in their pockets, and, you know, and you record the timeouts on it. You record all your fouls that you call, and you fill out a report after the game on that card. But anyways, next subject.
Let's move on to another game, big game going in, right? Chiefs, Saints, 2 of the best teams in the NFL. And, you know, we've kind of seen this a little bit this year where players getting ejected. Cam Jordan gets locked up and gets penalized and then thrown out of the game. What did you see here, Mike?
Well, what I see is there's maybe a bit of a different standard. Now, Jeff Nowak here says, wait a minute, he was just trying to fight his arm out of a block. I think he was drinking more Tito's than I was. But To me, this is a punch. Is it open-handed? Because we always talked about if it's open-handed, then consider it a slap and not an ejection. But I think now when you're looking, a blow is a blow, and they're not going to hesitate because they've got a new partner here in making these ejection calls, and that is New York. If you listen to this, Dean, and that's what I thought was interesting, the announcement of the penalty, which came after discussion with the calling official, that was just a straight unnecessary roughness, 15 yards and an automatic first down. There was no ejection. But yet we know that New York, if the foul is called for unnecessary roughness, New York can get involved. And it makes me think that maybe it was actually New York that made this decision. Could have been another official from the area that saw it, but once that call is made, then New York can get involved. And I'm not surprised if New York, after the fact, quickly after the fact, because it wasn't long, that they may have made this disqualification call. But to me now, the standard on the open hand to the closed fist is pretty much, it's all a punch.
Yeah, and I don't have, I agree. I think this came from New York. You listen to the referee, Scott Novak, make the announcement. Typically, if you're going to inject a player and that comes from the on-field officials, that's going to be all part of one announcement. It's not going to be additional information. So to me, there's no question that New York got involved like they are able to do. And again, look at some recent examples of ejections. This is a lower bar than what we've seen in the past, right? The open hand, yes, while it may be a blow, it's a personal foul, not an ejection. And so we have lowered the bar. And again, my only concern is now when you set that standard is every time a player throws an open hand that connects, is that going to be an ejection? And are we going to see more ejections? Or are we not going to see ejections and we're not going to be consistent? So again, I think the league has to be very mindful of that look, they're locked up. Do I think this is an ejectable offense? Absolutely not. Is it a 15-yard penalty? Sure, it's a 15-yard penalty. He cost his team the yardage in that situation, but to throw any player out of the game, I don't care if it's Cam Jordan or your third string tight end for that action, that just doesn't feel like something that it rises to the level of disqualifying. When you've seen acts, we've seen acts where players have gotten thrown out of games, rightfully so, for whether it's stomping on somebody or truly throwing a punch as part of a fight. So again, New York got involved. That's the standard. I hope it remains consistent the rest of the way, certainly into the postseason as well. And we'll kind of see what happens there.
Now, but I would say this, while it seems to me like when you think about the illegal use of the helmet and this kind of stuff, that there's a lot more ejections, they don't bear that out this year. It's not it's really near the same as it was last year, for example. But let's move, if we could, to Dallas, please. And being in the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm on the 49er network every Monday. And they're all talking about the Andy Dalton potential fumble. He was ruled down. On a play when it was a one-score game, it was 17-14. The ruling on the field was that he was down. It went to review, and then it stood as him being down. Take us through that one.
Yeah, so, Coach Shanahan challenges the ruling. It was ruled down, so it was not ruled a turnover. It wasn't inside 2 minutes, so it's a coach's challenge situation. And there's no question Dalton loses control before he's down. You can see that he has the ball in his right hand, and the ball comes loose. And then as he goes to the ground, he looks like he regains control in his opposite hand, hits the ground, and then the ball comes completely loose. Now, this used to be a fumble 6, 7, 10 years ago. We said that if a player loses control, a runner loses control on the way to the ground, he has to regain control and, just like a catch, maintain that control all the way through the ground. So in that interpretation, this would be a fumble. That was changed basically to say if a runner momentarily loses control but regains it, it doesn't start the process over. He doesn't have to maintain control all the way through contacting the ground. So to me, this was the correct ruling. It did appear that Dalton had regained control, and certainly there wasn't anything to overturn it in replay. But it is interesting because there was a time when this would have been a fumble and certainly would have been ruled that way in replay.
And a rule, by the way, that was different now is the same in college, by the way, that momentary loss of possession, as long as you regain it before they hit the ground, you don't have to survive the ground. So the ruling was correct.
So let's move on. We already talked about one Cam in New Orleans. Let's talk about another Cam in New England. And I know our executive producer Stephen Bond didn't take any pleasure in watching the Patriots lose and not making the playoffs for the first time since I don't know, since I was born, it feels like. But Cam Newton fumbles near the sideline. Miami picks it up, runs it back for what looks like a scoop and score, but was it?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. And there were a couple different things to this play that were interesting. Number one, it's a fumble. Then was it actually possessed by the defense first? Was it possessed and then fumbled? And then the ball was at the sideline, and before it was last recovered, it hits a Miami player who is standing out of bounds. So it's nothing more than a forward fumble out of bounds, since there was no possession by Miami until after the ball hit the Miami player out of bounds. Then it's a straightforward fumble. Out of bounds, ball comes back to the spot of the fumble. But it's interesting how replay called on the field as a touchdown. So replay takes a look at this. Since the ruling was a touchdown, they got to look at both those situations, because had Miami recovered the ball before then fumbling out of bounds and it hit an out of bounds player, then they would have kept the ball. But since there was no possession before it hit the Miami player out of bounds, then it's just a straight fumble out of bounds, and the ball goes back to Cam and the Patriots at the spot of his fumble.
Yeah, it's a good example of replay official, right? When you're in the booth or you're in New York, wherever they're making a decision, the game, there might be an aspect of the play that is clearly reviewable and the one that we focus on, right? Was it a fumble? But there are multiple aspects that are reviewable on a lot of these plays. And in replay, you have to look at all of those aspects. So it's not just, did Cam fumble? It's not just, did the Miami defender recover it in bounds and stay in bounds during the return? It's whether, while the ball was loose, if any player is out of bounds touching that loose ball. Like you said, that's going to make it a loose ball out of bounds. Possession does not change. It goes back to New England at the spot of the fumble because the ball went forward. So it's really one of those deals where you've got multiple aspects to look at. You've got to look at all of those aspects. So if a coach challenges a play and a coach says it's a tight catch at the sideline and the coach thinks it's incomplete and they want to challenge, replay will look at that, but they also have to look at all elements of the play. What if the quarterback was over the line of scrimmage before the pass? They got to look at that. Did the receiver step out of bounds prior to coming back in and being the first to touch? They got to look at that. So it's not just one specific aspect. It's all reviewable aspects once the play goes under review.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that. But once you open the door, it's wide open to everything that is reviewable. Let's talk a little bit about history, and let's talk about the Thursday night game with the Chargers and the Raiders. We had, just inside of 2 minutes, the first play after the 2-minute warning, we had a Charger fumble forward and into the end zone. Talk about that.
Yeah, so this is reminiscent of a play, and I had to go look it up because I think I was like 3 when it happened in 1978. So I had to look it up and get the particulars. I know you were probably watching the game, in your 50s at the time. And so this goes back to, and it's funny, it's the same two teams. Now there's been a lot of movement with these two teams since 1978, but this goes back to the holy roller play, which is the Raiders at the Chargers, week 1, 1978. Late in the game, the San Diego Chargers, and I can say that now because they were the San Diego Chargers at the time, they're ahead. Ken Stabler, he drops back, he's under pressure. He fumbles the football. Some might say he kind of fumbled it intentionally forward. The ball bounces around. It's muffed into the Chargers end zone, and Dave Casper falls on the football for what was then a touchdown, and Coach John Madden gets to celebrate. And by rule, that was legal. Well, after that, they changed the rule to say that inside 2 minutes or on fourth down, only the fumbling player can advance the football in that situation. So here you had again, it's benefiting the Raiders because Justin Herbert, QB sneak, he fumbles, recovered in the end zone by a player other than Herbert. That comes back to, because we were inside 2 minutes, that comes back to the spot of the fumble, no score. Chargers keep it, but the score comes off the board. So Mike, talk about, again, I know you, like I said, you were watching the game. What is your recollection of that game?
Well, my recollection of the game is the San Diego chicken going nuts, to tell you the truth, because he put on a show after that ruling. But I do think it's interesting that if you take that play and made the Holy Roller play from 1978, if you take that play and had replay today, you know what you would do with that play? You would turn it into an incomplete pass. It was not a fumble. Jerry Markbright was the referee, one of the greatest referees we've ever had in this league. And hard to see, but as you said, maybe intentionally fumbled it forward. Well, if you intentionally fumble a ball forward, it's an incomplete pass. So with replay, if you had it back in 78 when I was 28 years old, Dean, it would have been changed to an incomplete pass. But it is funny. Two teams. And why didn't I go on the air on this? Because you would think this is the type of play you and I would go on the air for. I didn't, because I had my mask on, pulled my microphone up, and then forgot to pull my microphone back down. So I was talking to dead air, which is why I never made this play. A rookie mistake after 11 years.
So that clearly the people that benefited from that were the people watching the broadcast. That's all I'll say on that. In the kind of the spirit of the holidays, right? We've got Christmas coming up, Hanukkah, we've got whatever you celebrate. We're in the holiday spirit. So I know our crack staff here has something special planned for us. A couple of tweets celebrating the holidays. What do you got, guys?
There you go.
Oh, this is my tweet. Look, Army. I've got Army, Navy, FCS, Division II, Division III playoffs done for the day. First Saturday night since Labor Day without college football. Now I can focus on getting caught up with Christmas movies on the Hallmark Channel. This is my vice. This is what I love, the Hallmark Channel, not just the Christmas movies. I mean, they have holiday movies. They've got Thanksgiving movies. They've got the fall harvest. They've got spring fling. They've got summer movies. It's the greatest channel. I will be watching all week leading up to Christmas Day. And so I might tweet again about my love for the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah, a little tip for you. It's more useful to endorse like Tito's vodka instead of the Hallmark Channel. That's not going to get you anything. Okay, what about me? A Christmas night wish for all of my followers, even my haters. May your new year be filled with health and happiness. My thanks to all. Isn't that lovely? See, that's so well done. My thanks to all still today through all of these hard times. My great thanks to Stephen Bondo, our executive producer, who does such a great job either from the coast in California or Syracuse in New York. And a shout out to Daniela Mayock, who is the one that puts all these great pictures together. Where would we be without Daniela? We would be nowhere. And Michael Davis, who was the former executive director, forget him. I'm not even going to wish him a Merry Christmas. He dumped us. He left us. But to everybody else except Mike Davis, Merry Christmas. Even to you, Mr. Blandino, Merry Christmas. May you have a great Christmas Day with your kids while Roger Ruth and I work on Christmas Day doing football games in the studio.
Yes, have fun. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to our entire crew. Thank you for everything that you do. I know I give Bondo a hard time, but again, if you know anything about me, if the more crap I give you, that's the more I like you. So we'll end with that.
Me. You love
yeah,
me.
exactly.
You love me.
If
Thank
I
you, Dean.
ignore you, then you should worry. So that's last call. This is the last call, or the next to last call of 2020. I think we've got one more. And so that's Mike. I'm Dean. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to check out our big slate of Sunday football and check us out on the Fox Sport app.
Take on the Saints. Christmas Day coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on Fox, NFL Network, and streaming on Prime Video.